Today on the American Truck Podcast, Twitch is playing the stock market, Intel is releasing an 18-core processor, Destiny 2 is sort of getting dedicated servers, and Oculus can finally do full room tracking. Hello and welcome to the American Truck Podcast with Andrew C.
Dan Jefferson B.
Hello. A dime.
A dime? What kind of
Because
dime?
you stopped on because we stopped on me.
Are you a shiny dime?
We stopped the introduction after me. Get it?
I am not.
Uh-huh.
I also did not stop on a dime.
You stopped
I
pretty
was
close.
stopped
Maybe on a,
with
maybe on a
plenty
quarter.
of space.
I'll give you a quarter. I'll give you a quarter for it.
I was stopped on like
Tell you what, because we're so kind of
$150 bills.
I'll give you a whole dollar.
Why a $150 bill?
It
It's
was
the
a
same
long.
as
I was
$1
stopped.
bill.
I was stopped substantially long enough that it was worth the money.
Hey, it's the same size as a $1 bill.
It all depends. I feel better with 50s.
Do we just want to jump right into it?
We might as well.
This I find to be one of the most interesting things on the internet today.
That's pretty extensive there
That-
because there's
yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
interesting
that-
things on the internet. As far as
There's
news
no-
topics are concerned, yeah, I'm not sure about that. But yeah. So yeah, Twitch has continued in their style of Twitch plays based series. This one is Stock Market Simulator. Well, not quite. Actually, it's not a simulator at all. This is apparently some guy was like, "Hey, you guys wanna invest in stocks with 50 grand of some random software engineer's money? Go for it." Like you can
Probably lives in Mountain View and doesn't give a shit.
No, most definitely not.
Yeah, that's probably
But
a fact.
if he wins pretty well.
Oh
And
yeah,
if he loses,
if this
he
succeeds,
still wins.
Yeah, if this succeeds, he has got some quality a quality investment portfolio.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Albeit a quality investment portfolio that was created by thousands upon thousands of Twitch viewers who are in fact buying real stocks with real money using the Twitch chat.
Right.
I wonder how many people are like in the guild of like, let's just crash the system.
Based on the replays that I was watching before we started recording, there's a decent amount. For example, there's a contingency of people that are trying to convince him to buy, or trying to convince the system to buy like a bunch of shares in Trump's corporation. That's a thing. And for some reason, this huge obsession with Nvidia and Tesla, and some
Snapchat.
Snapchat, and SED, which was a agricultural company. I don't know. There must be somebody with some knowledge that I just don't have.
I mean, there's a lot of stocks out there, so you know.
Yeah, but it seemed very random for
Diversify.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
a bunch of Twitch people, though. I mean, just that seems like a pretty harsh diversification.
I just know
Unless
that.
it's a bunch of trolls.
What do you mean
but,
harsh? That's how diversification works.
Right. I don't know. And I'm not saying that I think low of the Twitch community. It's just one of those things I wouldn't have expected it. It kind of came out of left field for me.
I mean,
It was a surprise.
It's a voting
It wasn't a surprise,
system,
but it's
so you have the ability for people who actually know how stocks work to be able to be like, no, none of that.
True. There was a good portion of the chat was wanting to invest in this one particular company, though.
If you want to partake in spending some other guy's money, you go over to twitch.tv/stockstream, and you'll be able to partake in that.
So what's the end conditions though? Like when do we know this is this gonna come to a close?
Well, it'll either come to a close when you hit 25 grand, because that is the minimum investment allowed, or he did some projections and some testing, and he believes this could go for months, and it's all automated, so he doesn't even need to do anything. Like, it's all scripted out. It starts the stream and ends the stream on times and that, you know, as required, and he doesn't have to do anything. He could walk away for months and never think about it if he wanted to. So I don't know that it will end anytime soon. You know, obvious ending, all the money gets lost. Clear ending right there. But from the upper side, why would you end that early? You know, let's say they double their money. We're up to 100 grand. Well, who's gonna stop that? Who's gonna just go, yeah, no, we're good here. You go see how much money you can earn.
Or if you're really smart, you take out your initial and then let them go free.
True.
Perhaps. I'm interested, and I don't know if you can necessarily.
Well, at least 25 grand because you can't lose the other 25.
Right.
True.
That needs to be there at all times. What I'm interested in is how many armchair financial experts
Or
are
participating.
gonna are just grabbing onto this like a dog to a
real
bone.
real
just
day
chewing on
traders.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens in a couple of months here.
Yeah.
If will this guy make a fortune? Will he be able to retire from Twitch?
And who gets the money in
knows?
the end? Does only this guy get the money? Is there going to be some kind of charity thing that happens with it? You know,
I don't know. We'll have to see. Maybe the community will decide.
maybe. But moving right along here, got a little follow-up to the Destiny news from last week about there not being dedicated servers, that they were going to be still peer-to-peer. They are making some changes in how the matchmaking systems work and in the way that the gameplay is set up. In Destiny 1, there were dedicated servers in Destiny 1, but all it did was some back-end map management, connecting people together and whatnot, and saying, you cluster are a game. Here's what map you're playing right now, and that was it. It was administrative type things. It was all that their servers actually handled. In Destiny 2, we're gonna see that expand a little bit. It's going to now take care of all of the game activity pieces. So all of the map information is now going to be dedicated. So you won't have any issues like host migration on certain maps, where if the current host of the game disconnects, that host duties needs to be passed on to another player. And that can cause a lot of issues, as everyone now has to re-peer off of the new person. And if that location changed dramatically, you can end up with huge pings, swings. Whereas with a dedicated server, you wouldn't have that. The server would be always in the same place. But the general day-to-day shooter-to-shooter part of the game will still be peer-to-peer. So you will have, where my gun is, me shooting you, that'll all will still be peer-to-peer. But
host advantage will still exist, just not as strong as previous.
Right, exactly.
Well, what it's doing is, it's my understanding, it's distributing out some of these faster, like more time-sensitive practices, so that everyone who's in the cluster can stay as up-to-date as possible, as compared to having the person, whoever happens to be closest to that server closet, getting the advantage all game, every game.
Truth too.
Yep.
Yeah, so that would be a big difference. Is you should see, which is actually might be the best of both worlds. Not Jeff put it that way, because that's a good point. You very well may have it where, I hope we see less of the, oh look, I'm connecting to U.S. East and I'm on U.S. West, and that guy shot me, but I thought he didn't shoot me.
But I didn't see it yet, but I'm dead.
Yeah, or I saw it, but he missed me, but he didn't miss me.
Right.
Right.
I shouldn't have been in that spot when I was shot, but I was.
Right. Yeah.
It's the whole speed of light problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's the harshest thing to get around when you're trying to play stuff in real time or near real time. But I mean, I can totally see some of the advantages, and distributing it out is also going to mean it's a lesser of a server load, which means it is once again one of those great. I guess I wouldn't call them great, but it's once again, it's one of those cost-cutting things that is happening in order to make Destiny a very reasonable game to produce, so that it can be more deliverable.
Right. So there's that. Another update here we have is to the Intel i9 processors. We talked about those before, how that was something that was it actually was leaked. But there's actually some now concrete details of it. And it was kind of surprising to see. They've released all of the core counts and the prices. They haven't released the clock speeds yet, but I mean, this is enough for your imagination. So the new 18-core, 36-thread i9 processor, the top tier mother of all processors now.
Is this a desktop class or a server class
This
processor?
is still technically a desktop enthusiast class processor. Not a
Oh boy.
so none of these are server grade processors.
Lay it on me.
This would be $2,000.
Whew.
So that
It's
is
actually
your
not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
so that is your high end price point now. Now here's where this kind of works out. So even though the price for your 18 core processor is quite high, it has resulted in the cost of some of these other processors coming down. So there's going to be a 16 core processor, which will be $16.99. There's a 14 core processor, which will be $13.99. A 12 core processor for $11.99. A 10 core processor for $9.99. The pricing kind of makes sense here. As in the i9 series, it's roughly $100 per core, right?
I mean, this is some steep binning we've got going on right here. Where I mean, that's just a lot of categories.
Oh yeah, no, there are a lot of SKUs, for sure.
Do we have a name, like the naming for this?
The naming for these are Skylake X processors and Kaby Lake X. Those are the two monikers for this set. The i7s is where you start to see the prices become really more reasonable. The 8-core i7 is only going to be $600 now. That used to be more like a $1,200 to $1,300 processor. So we're seeing a big savings there. The 6-core is now only $389. The 4-core, which is what most people would be buying in the i7 line, that's your 4790K, your 6700K, your 7700K. That is the typically cream of the crop i7 for most people, what they would be buying, and that's going to be $339 still. That's roughly what it's costing now if you were to buy that processor.
I think that's what I paid for my lower SKU i7.
It all depends. I mean, it depends on when you buy it. Right out the bat, it might be a little more expensive than that. But it's, the run-of-the-mill price usually. I think the 4790K was like $320. I think the 6700K when I bought it last year was somewhere in that $320 range. So we're seeing that stay relatively similar. And there's also going to be a new i5, which is the 4-core, 4-thread processor, and that'll be $242.
Now that sounds incredibly reasonable.
So
that's mid-grade gaming rig right there.
Exactly. And
that's like college. That's like I'm a college student and I want to game.
But I don't want to go all out because I'm not doing anything beyond gaming, which most people will tell you that you do not need an i7 for gaming.
Right. That's my console killer, like mini PC that sits in my dormitory or in my apartment.
Correct.
Like my Steam box, that's about all it can do.
Right.
Steam box and the Netflix YouTube thing.
You can do quite a lot more than that, but
Right. But what I'm saying is like that's sort of it's HTPC territory.
Easily.
Oh yeah, wonderfully.
Now, one of the interesting things here, which it kind of makes sense, all these processors are expected to be basically in the 140 watt range, which means they're going to put out a lot of heat and use quite a bit of power here. So Intel is actually changing their typical recommendations for those processors. Usually they always ship with a solid air-cooled, heat sink. They're actually going to be changing that recommendation towards now. It will come. Actually, it looked like it wasn't saying it would come with it, but you would now be recommended to use a liquid cooler now, whether an all-in-one liquid cooler or a full fancy schmancy liquid cooling rig where your whole computer is typically water cooled. And they will be also selling their own. And it looked like on the press release information they were saying it would be about $80 to $100 for theirs. That's but it looks on par with the model that Corsair sells for, I think, like $50 or $60 though.
You're talking about the tried and true Corsair, the H55 or the H65.
Correct.
Like the kind that you and me and Kyle, do you have an
everyone that I
H55 in
know
yours?
has, yes.
Yeah,
Every
pretty much, because
single computer I have built or had a hand in helping be built has that version as the H50.
Isn't it because that comes at your
H55.
recommendation of having the Corsair?
Yes,
the Corsair single or double rad.
That is why everyone has the H50 or H55.
Is the Intel liquid cooling rig a single or a
It is
double
a
wide?
single. It is a single wide, and that's why I'm kind of questioning. It's got that Intel price tag on it of
Yeah.
too much.
So will it come with that solid chunk of copper?
It didn't look like it. It looked like they were saying that was a separate SKU, that it would be an additional purchase that you'd have to make.
I guess it makes sense because nobody really uses. I mean, I've never used the stock cooler.
No,
That came
I
with
used
mine.
it. I used it for a short period of time when I built a new computer.
I'm curious as to like what are we gonna get from that out of these 18 core i9s? Like that blows my mind just a little bit, and I'm kind of curious as to how hard will the unlocked models be pushed before
Now
they
here's
start.
the thing. All of
up.
these grade processors are unlocked.
All of them are unlocked.
Every single one of them, except maybe the i5. I don't know about that one because that i5s
right.
usually
There might be an
aren't
unlocked SKU. that
But
you can get from
all of
other-
these X series processors are unlocked.
That's going to be interesting. I'll be interested to see how far and how hard we can push it. We might honestly, this might be another. This has the potential at least to be another jump in the PC building world, where we're limited not by the processor but by how much stuff we can throw at it, power and cooling.
Right. And
So I'll be
all we
interested
can
to see
do
that.
here, though, is thank Ryzen for really stepping up the competition in the CPU space, because I think Intel had a oh crap moment when they saw what Ryzen could do and the price point that Ryzen is.
Yeah, Ryzen is actually still very, like, even with the new set, Ryzen's still pretty viable, but they definitely were like, look, we need to make this significantly less viable because otherwise we're swamped.
Oh yeah, Ryzen is still going to be your budget go-to, but for anyone who plays Team Blue and plays it hardcore, this is going to be a great opportunity.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You save a lot of money now in processor power, and you can get more processor power for your dollar than you ever could before.
With everyone, yeah.
The 6-core processor was an $900 processor. Now it's it's barely a $400 processor.
That's fantastic.
That's a very doable jump for most people to be able to say, oh well, one is $340 and the other one is $390. It's only a $50 difference. Let me go do that.
Yeah.
Or that's waiting an extra week maybe before you can buy one.
It's manageable for sure.
It's much more manageable than it used to be. Whereas traditionally it has always been, oh, you want more than 4 cores? Pay up, big bucks. So there is that. Definitely be keeping an eye on that. Of course, the clock rates still need to come out on that, so we probably will talk about this again closer to their launch.
Do we have a time frame?
No, not currently. It's going to be one of those. It's going to be soon.
Soon, TM.
It shouldn't be too. I think it's been a week since the last one. I think we talked about it last week, and now we're talking about this week. So it shouldn't be too long to get the shipping dates and the clock rates. Because as soon as they start to ship, obviously we'll get clock rates right then. Before that, because you're not going to ship processors without telling people what clock rate it is. Ooh,
right, especially
it's
for
the
this
mystery
market.
clock rate. Who knows what it is? Ha ha!
No, not at this market. Not in the
everyone's
going
to want to know what it is before they buy.
Yep.
So, little bit here. Oculus has had some full room scale tracking stuff that was in beta versions of their software for a while, and they have pushed it out so that way it will be in the main release of their software. And Jefferson B, did you figure out anything about this?
Yeah, so Oculus for the longest time they've been really good at doing head tracking, and basically what you had the special. The only way that I can describe it is you had the special Oculus camera on a stick that you would sit in front of your PC, and that would track kind of your head movements and things like that. And it could do standing things, so you were able to do like stand in place and rotate in place games, which was okay for a time, but we still want to be able to stretch out. And while we're in the middle of solving what I'm calling the locomotion problem, which is how do I get from point A to point B in VR space and not get myself motion sick. For now, at least, though, you can do successful room scale technology with about 3 points, according to Oculus Rift. And so what you'll do is if you already have one of those body tracking cameras for stand-and-place games, all you need is 2 more of those cameras that you'll place in corners of your room and then calibrate them. And that's about it. Because this is being pushed to mainline code branches, you should be expecting the update very, very shortly. And from there, it's just a simple matter of acquiring all of the necessary components, which if you're already a first wave VR player, you're already probably looking at picking up some extra cameras anyway. This is nothing new. But hopefully this is going to help bring Oculus back up to be parallel with Vive, because for the longest time, Oculus has not been doing so well, since Vive and their Lighthouse technology has been surpassing them when it comes to room scale games. So hopefully this is something that might bring Oculus up a little bit more. I want them to succeed well. My money is still on Daydream and the mobile VR scene, but I would love it if we could just see more competition, because it's going to make for better games in the end anyway.
Now, which of the two was the more expensive platform?
So I guess it depends on who you ask and what you've already got.
Well, let's say starting out, you have to, like, if you're buying room tracking for room tracking,
mm-hmm.
the Vive already did it, right? It basically already had room tracking.
Yeah, Vive has had room tracking for a while now.
So it was already kind of built into the price there. So I'm guessing this means Oculus is a little more expensive now if you want full room.
Oculus is going to be a little bit more expensive. Oculus also has a really fantastic ecosystem to develop with. So you're going to be seeing more interesting, more interactive games. Vive is got the backing of Steam.
Or you could use that Vive app that lets you break the DRM on the Oculus
you can use
games
Vive
and say, screw you, Oculus, because Oculus is the jerk face of the VR.
There's other ways of getting around it. Oculus right now also seems to have the better comfort experience as opposed to HTC. They've just got a better kind of a spit and polish, as well as object tracking. But all of that right now is very experimental, so we'll see. If I had to choose a desktop class VR rig, I would say still get your HTC on, get a Vive system, but I like Oculus's controllers too much. Their handheld motion controllers are pretty fantastic, but just because it's got the backing of Steam, I would still say go for a Vive. If you're in the market to buy right now, that would be what I would say. But keep an eye on Oculus, and hopefully they can sort of light a fire underneath HTC to sort of step up their game for hopefully Gen 2, because we're starting to draw to that close of this development cycle.
So there is that to keep track of course. And one last thing here is some changes that are coming to League of Legends. So for a long time there have been runes and masteries, and as you leveled up you gained more of each, and you would be able to become a more skilled League of Legends player by the time you had all of your runes and masteries all set up perfectly, and you would change them per champion and whatnot. Well, it turns out
no champions, because you had to buy a shitload of runes.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you didn't necessarily change your runes for every champion, but for classes and skill types. But this is kind of going out the window now, because they are basically getting rid of rune and masteries and combining them all into one runes category, and they're making runes free as a result. So it now means you've got a whole new system to learn, for one, and two, it might make it easier for people to sort out what really works well for different champions, and be able to have different pages that are better. And they also said that there will be something they're doing for those who've already spent a shed load of IP on runes.
I was about to ask, what is the community's response to basically them sunsetting a major income source and a major income leak for a lot of League players?
I haven't seen anything yet, because there's not a lot of information about this change happening. It was just announced, so it will be. We'll see. We'll see what the reaction is. It should be good, because it makes it easier and less work to do.
Perhaps I could see some of your higher tier players getting very upset just because they're
Well-
old fuddy-duddies who aren't going to like change no matter what.
But not
But-
from a monetary standpoint, because people who are top tier streamers and top tier league players, they've got billions of influence points and have nothing to do with it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Because they play so much,
They earn an absurd amount of it through playing games. You know,
just through being in game.
right.
Gotcha.
And they
I see
own,
what you're-
most
okay.
of them own all the champions and everything, and they just rack up a billion of them, and they're like, well, I don't know what to do with these. And you know, most people wish that you could buy skins with IP for that reason.
Perhaps, but that would be a major income drain for Riot Games.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, it'd be an absurd income drain for them.
Because if you didn't need RP for anything, for anything major, well, what's the point then?
Exactly. There would be no point to it at all. So, that is it. That's all we got for today. If you like this episode, make sure you hit the like button. Also, be sure to leave a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you guys in the next one.